think it's a game? You think it's game? Y'all gon' make me lose my mind. Hey, yo, what's my name? Y'all gon' make me go all out. DMX. Y'all gon' make me act a fool. Hey, yo, what's my name? What you got? Y'all gon' make me lose my cool.
I tried so hard.
What you really want? What you really want?
But it doesn't even matter. Come on. I tried so hard.
What you really want?
It doesn't even matter. But it doesn't even matter. Come on.
Boy, give me a sign. Dog, I meet bitches, the street bitches, slash, Cocoa Puff, sweet bitches, think you wanna eat bitches, but not me.
I tried so
I
hard.
fuck with these hoes from a distance. The instant they start to catch feelings, I start to. What is it you want from a nigga? I gave you, you gave me. I played you, you played me.
And got so far. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fight to lose it all. But in the end.
Welcome everybody to another edition of the Showcase Pod. I am Don Vega, joined by the boss Chris Blackheart. We're at it again.
We are slightly late, but it's never forgotten. We have a special guest. But as always, you always like teeing up. Why don't you introduce our guest and we'll take it from there?
Well, we're live on my Facebook too, so everybody joining in. Hello to everybody out there. But like you said, we got a special guest. This guest, we go way back. I go way back from the 90s, 97 to be exact, with this gentleman. He was one of the promoters in the New England region, one of the top promoters in New England wrestling for over 3 decades. The owner of Yankee Pro Wrestling, Mr. Joe Eugenio. Are you there, Joe?
How you guys doing?
Doing great.
All is good.
Doing great. It's great to hear you again after all these years. Uh, as I like to start off before we get to the good stuff that people wait for. How did you get bitten by the bug of pro wrestling? How do you get involved in professional wrestling?
Totally by accident. It's been the same story for all these years. I was a supervisor at a boys and girls club, and we had a boxing ring in the basement, but somebody broke in and stole all the equipment, the gloves, the bags, everything. But there was another group downstairs who used to use the basement, and so they came and they asked, "Hey, can we do wrestling? Can we start wrestling?" And I said, I don't know much about wrestling, but I'll inquire. So I went to the board of directors and the man who ran the place, and I asked, "Hey, can we do a wrestling program? Small things, just for the building to use up the ring downstairs." Keep in mind, this ring was cemented to a cement floor.
Wow.
The poles were cemented. It was boards. There was no gimmick to it, nothing at all. It was just cement to the floor. And some of the kids went down there, and they used to go down there for an hour and jump around, bounce around the rings, what the kids like to do, climb the ropes and jump off. That was a long time ago. And so I said, well, can we do a little more with this? And I went out to Killer Kowalski, because I knew Killer Kowalski through Steve Driscoll, and get some pointers. Mm-hmm. Pointers to bring back to the Boys and Girls Club, and Dennison Memorial was the name of the place. And we started our program. Maybe within the first 6 months, we did a show just for their family and friends. It was just one row around the whole ring, because that's the only thing you could put down there. And it went from there. That's exactly how it started. And then I found out we can rent rings. We rented a real ring and did a show at Keith Junior High School. Again, just for family and friends, and we gave the kids in that whole school free tickets. That's how we started. It started as a showcase for guys, and back then there was no girls, for guys who wanted to wrestle in front of people, not just in front of an empty audience.
Yep.
And that's how it started, and we just grew from there. It grew to the point of my highest shows. We did 105 2 years prior to that I sold to Steve Ricard. Mm-hmm. and we had so many guys that we had to have two companies. We
Yes.
had to, before Vince McMahon did his split, we were doing that long before that. It was South Coast Pro Wrestling
Yep.
and Yankee Pro Wrestling. We were doing that way before. We had so many students and other people that wanted to come wrestling. We were one of the highest. We had the most attended practices and shows in New England. Killer Kowalski was first, and then it was us.
Mm-hmm.
And Killer Kowalski just did maybe 10 shows a year, but he had a name, Killer Kowalski, so that helped.
Yeah. So, Joe,
That's me.
Go ahead, and not to interrupt. You could keep going.
No, that's what I did. We did a lot of firsts in New England. We did a lot of firsts. As you two should know, we did a lot of things, did a lot of people. So ask me any question you want to ask me. I have the answer. One thing you can't forget is the truth. If you know the truth,
Yes,
you can't forget things.
definitely.
Yeah, no, I years ago, like when we tell the kids how many shows we used to work at, like every weekend, 2 or 3 times, they are baffled that one promoter would do it. And I've always said, like Joe or dislike Joe, Joe does shows, and I know when I started working for you, overall, I didn't have any issues with you. You ran big events all the time. It was really a one place to work because at that time I came from Kowalski's. I started wrestling for you, started going down to your training. And it was, you did a lot of shows. You broke that market from really New Bedford to Fall River and gave a lot of opportunity to tons of talent. And, you know, I think we should get into your time as being a promoter. I mean, unfortunately, you came on by reaching out because there was accusations from a talent. We'll get into some of that, but I think just the history of Yankee Pro Wrestling has been missing because not everyone knows when you sold the company, why you sold it. There was stories and rumors why you did it. So I
I
mean,
wish I knew what those were. I had enough.
well, yeah, and it's
Traveling on the
funny.
road, being
Th-
on the road every weekend. I've probably done over 600 shows. It just enough's enough. And I had other things I wanted to do. I became an auctioneer, and I started doing auctions to the public because I got a hold of a lot of great product I can get at a good price. And also the stores. I opened up stores in Bedford, Fall River. I had 5 stores going for a while. And I sold those stores in 2016 because I had enough of that too.
Okay. So, Joe, we did mention, and Chris touched up on this. You were probably the premier organization at that time, running over 100 shows a year. We would go to sold out high school hockey arenas, armories, you name it. We was there. The kids nowadays, you talk about those things and they look at you weird, like you're lying. You know, uh,
Yeah.
Working in front of hundreds of people. We never did BFW halls or small venues like we do now. Uh, Talk to us about those experiences. Talk to us. Did you ever picture it from a boys and girls club to full places, full gymnasiums,
Well,
and like I said, all these other places that I mentioned?
one of my goals, and a lot of people, I'm probably the Ashworths and Vega, maybe Colossus, and God rest his souls, the Blade, Derek, and
Derek.
just recently cousin Seth. They were there from the beginning, basically. And I always told them one thing: it's about you having a audience to do your wrestling. It's terrible doing a wrestling in front of 10 or 15 people, and that's how we started. That's how I started at the Boys and Girls Club. That's how we started. But my goal is always to put people in the seats so you can go out there and work the crowd, get the cheers, get the boos, and do what you want to do. That was always my goal. I know there's rumors out there we didn't pay people. No, because some of the shows were low. We were charging $2, $3. So we get a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
And I always paid the ring. Ring crew was always the most important thing
Hmm.
because without the ring, you don't have a show.
Yes.
And I was providing something to the guys who wanted to wrestle. A lot of students, and that's what they wanted to do. A lot of them didn't care about the money. But when we went on road shows, we went to Holton, Mass. I mean Holton, Maine, way at the
Yeah. Nova
up by the
Scotia
border,
Yep. Yep.
all by the border, and we went to New York and did shows. All those telemarketer shows, the guys were all paid
Yeah.
because I met this guy who used to do telemarketed shows. He used to do. He used to work with Walter, but he didn't like what was going on with Walter, and he found out about me and called me, and we started doing telemarketer shows for the police, for the fire departments, for some high schools.
Yeah.
And that's how that's where the big shows came from. I was always looking to increase that number of shows to a point that Steve Ricard, that's why he ended up buying the business. I couldn't be in two places at one weekend on the same day. So we were doing the fairs in Vermont and Maine and in Mass. I would send Steve Ricard out. And Steve Ricard, I think was the best person that I can sell the wrestling to. He was running it for me for probably the last 2 years. He was running it,
Hmm.
and because I just had enough. You ever get to the point of doing something, enough's enough,
Yeah. Yeah. You ran your
and that
course.
is, yeah, and that is the extent of it. I go once in a while. I take Tom, the referee, who got into a car accident and is paralyzed. You guys know him, Chicken.
Chicken,
Yeah.
yeah.
Chicken. Yes.
I take him to David Kudo shows once in a while. I'll take him to a card shows around here because I'm not the biggest fan of sitting there and watching wrestling.
Yeah.
My thing was, and I've always told everybody that it's not a lie.
Hmm.
I've always told everybody that I did it because it was a business.
Yes.
It was a business to put people in seats, have an audience for the guys, sell some cheap souvenirs, and keep the place going, make it better every year. And that was my goal, and I think I did that to the end. There's again, I have so many people that I know because of the wrestling. We took guys from Gino, for example, from the group he was with in Rhode Island. He didn't like him, and he heard about us, and he came down. Some guys came down with Gino. It was about making it better. I invested money in curtains, invested money in a TV screen, and always invested money back into the company to
Yeah.
make it better.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember. Production was good and everything was top notch at that time. Actually, Gino. Yeah. Him and I met Gino in the NEWA in Rhode Island, and he had expressed that he wanted to go and work for you for the longest. And I was, my dad and
Hmm.
I were the ones responsible for getting him down there
Yes,
when he
I
started
remember that.
with us. And yeah, Gino, a guy that I would love to find him and connect with him again. He's a good friend.
He's missing in action. I don't know where he's at. He's missing in action. I talked to him probably about 2 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, I would love
Last
to.
time I talked to him.
I would love to hear from him and see how he's doing. Always one of my good friends.
So Joe,
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions on the sale.
Can you speak a little louder? I really can't
Yep.
hear you.
Yeah, if you can't hear me, tell me because somebody always gives me the bad mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in regards to the sale to Steve, what was the
Yeah.
number? Is there was speculation. Everyone was speculating. What was that number you sold Yankee Pro Wrestling slash Top Rope over almost 20 years ago? What is that magic
I really,
number?
it was. I really don't want to talk about numbers. That's kind of personal
Yeah,
for Steve and myself. I
yeah,
mean, I wouldn't ask you any money questions. How much you do in a show, and
yeah.
I wouldn't ask that question.
All right.
But
Eh, The only reason I'm asking is because this is me observing, when you left there, I always questioned what Steve was buying and why after you left, all of a sudden there was less shows from years going down. And
mhm.
I always, I was at the training. center when?
I can answer that. I can
Okay.
answer that question
Okay.
easily. I made special contacts with people with telemarketing. I had lists of schools for every single high school in Massachusetts. Some flyers. I used to go to the fair conventions, which they have in Maine, Vermont, Rhode Island, and Mass. I would go there and set up a booth and try to book shows for the summer fairs. And if you're at those conventions, trying to book shows, you have to have a hospitality suite. So the people get to buy entertainment. They'll buy entertainment for their fair. Fireworks. At one point, it was wrestling, and you have to entertain, spend some money to get them into come see you and talk about numbers. So that's one of the things. Same thing with the telemarketers. I mean, he will come to me with a price, and they always want to have a lower price because we had the school and we had availability to over 80 guys. I can give them a little lower price and do a good show and work in some students. You know, so it's all about that, putting time into it. And I used to sponsor in New Bedford, Fall River. I used to sponsor a lot of those PAO shows myself just to have shows. And if I made a few bucks at the night or broke even or lost money, it didn't matter. It was still a professional show, and we built that up.
So, Joe, now that you mentioned PAL, PAL is kind of like the mecca of wrestling in New England. That place was meant to have wrestling in it.
Hmm.
When Steve took over the company completely, uh, he was kind of grandfather in. I know there's a lot of places and a lot of other promoters that over the years they've tried to go to PAL and they get turned down. Was that part of the deal when he purchased the company from you?
No, definitely not. Part of it was I would give him all my contacts, every single contact, help them to keep the locations going, even if I had to go talk to somebody. It was never that you're just getting this and you're not getting the contact. Steve had everything because I really liked Steve. He was professional. I know. I remember how Steve got involved. It's very, very simple. I used to hate people being at the stage, peeking out curtains, doing all that shit. I was big on kayfabe back then.
Mm-hmm.
I know the
Yeah,
feeling.
I
And
know it.
so I came up the stairs at PAL. I was on the stage behind the curtains, and I see this guy up there with a camera. And I said, "Who are you?" "Oh, I'm Steve Ricard. I came with Jose. I'm doing videos for Jose." So I went and I asked Jose, and he says, "Yeah, that's true." I said, "Okay." And that's how I met Steve Ricard, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was always an asset. He used to give me videos of all the shows. He was just an asset. He'll do whatever you need him to do. Watch the front door, sell whatever we needed to do, he would do.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
Because
lost art.
he wanted the business. He wanted to. Well, maybe he didn't want my business, but he wanted to get involved in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he came at the right time. Probably 6 or 7 years after that, I sold the business.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't for millions of dollars. It was a very reasonable, reasonable price, so we can still continue.
Yeah.
Because if you buy something for too much, or you invest in too much, it sort of ties your hands to do other things.
Okay. Danny, we got a question I can't make out from Joe Ravello. He's got a question for Joe.
Joe Rebello. We used him for a little while as a manager. He's a nice guy. I still see him once in a while.
He says, "What wrestler did Iron Mike Sharp put through the airbrush NEW logo on the wall on Bellevue? Is it Bellevue Avenue?"
Bellevue Avenue. I had on the second floor. We had a practice area and an arena that held about 600 people. Yeah, I can't remember that, but we used to use a lot of former wrestlers
Okay.
from Vince and other people.
Yeah. So,
I can't remember who that was.
so
Cannot. Maybe one of the guys can, but I can't.
okay. So there you go, Joe. That's your answer. Joe, so it seems to me like you was always more towards the side of being a promoter. You wasn't really as big act of a wrestling fan as other promoters that are in the business. They either wrestled or they either they loved the business. They grew up watching it. It just like you said, it happened by accident, and then you grew up on it. You saw it as a business that you could take to another level in this area. Is
Hmm.
that something along the lines how it came about?
Exactly. I mean, I never considered myself a promoter. I never called myself a promoter. Never made any business card that's promoter.
Hmm.
I never did that. I didn't book shows. Most of the times, I let the guys book the shows themselves. And
Hmm.
then I guess I got I don't know if it was a couple of guys that I used throughout the years to do the booking.
Yes.
Um, and we brought in a couple guys from one guy from Kowalski's who again I apologize, my memory is going. My mom had dementia and Alzheimer's. I think I'm getting some of that because I can't remember a lot of dates and stuff
So
and a lot of names. So I mean I used it for books that I didn't want to do the booking. I mean that's a little make sure that the place was ready for the show. Uh, there was people, there was security out there that people weren't doing anything stupid. Snack I was full of something. And hey,
Joe, we're losing you a little bit. If you want to fix your phone, you're breaking up
okay.
a little bit on there.
Am I better now?
Yep, you're good now.
Okay.
You,
More questions, guys.
Chris.
Hey, let me go into the question. One of the questions is why um, we unfortunately have you on the podcast for an acquisition that was made from a prior guest in regards to um, young talent, boys. They will put an
What kind of
acquisition.
talent? What kind of talent?
It was Tavian Rave. We had him on the show.
Yeah, he doesn't like me because he doesn't like me because things in the past have happened. Not the things he's claiming.
Mhm.
He lived in one of my apartments
Mhm.
with Robbie. I had to throw him out, so he doesn't like me for that. He's asked me for money so many times, and I've said no.
Yeah.
It just goes. It just goes on and on. You can ask anybody about him. You know, I have people that wrestle for me, and I still know. I see them today. There's cops. If I was doing anything wrong, don't you think they would see that and say something?
Yeah.
Parents used to come by. You used to come by. Chris, you guys did see anything wrong?
No, and I've always said that to people if when people were throwing allegations, I'm like, I mean, but people talk, and I to this day I've always said I've never seen anything. Anytime I was down there at training or on road shows, but people talk. And
You
again,
can't see things that don't happen.
and
You
this is
can't
the
see things that don't happen.
yeah, and this is the problem with the wrestling business. So, I'm glad we were able to put that out there because unfortunately, people believe what they hear is the truth if they don't hear anything
Yeah,
else.
anything you
Yeah,
put out in social media nowadays without hearing anybody's side, it must
yeah.
be the truth. And it's ironic that later on we're gonna get into a little issue
Yeah.
that we had with myself. But yeah,
I heard that. I
again,
heard that.
again, I met Joe when I was 15 years old. He gave me the opportunity to come in, and I had the dream to be a wrestler. I showed up at the school through Pretty Boy Hernandez. And I showed up with my dad, and Joe gave me the opportunity, and he was always, the most cordial to myself and my father. I never had any issues,
Hmm.
any weird stuff, any of that shit. Obviously, the boys always talk, and they sometimes they get out of context. And I'm glad that you're able to come on here and clear the
Yeah.
air with a lot of these accusations, speculations, or whatnot.
I get I get called and sent these because I don't really go on Facebook. I don't
Hmm.
go on YouTube. So I get called and they send me what they've heard or things, remarks that are being made. I say, well, Alan, I don't mind going on there and answer any of those questions. I mean, let's talk about the title couch. What title couch?
Yeah.
You know, have you been on a title couch? And you had belts with us.
Yeah, I had titles. I never went on no title couch.
Chris had a belt.
Yeah,
mean,
I had
Scott
belt.
Ashworth.
Yeah.
Scott Ashworth, Colossus. I use the older guys that were around with me. None of those. There's no damn thing as a title couch. It's just a person who has hate in his heart and wants to start trouble.
Yeah.
Over after 40 years.
Yes.
So
After 40 years.
So I want to kill this rumor 100%. So when it came to younger talent, like younger men in the earlier or slightly under 20, there was no favoritism, no acts, no of anything, indiscretions on your part regarding any talent in any manner.
Let me tell you my opinion of talent. I don't like to use smaller guys because it doesn't come across as real. Like Richie was big, you're big, so I try to use as many big guys as possible, but it makes it real.
No.
It makes it real. But the other thing is, speaking of younger talent, we took people in anywhere from 15 with parents' permission and up. We would charge, believe it or not, I would tell them, well, it's going to cost you so much, $25 or $50 to join. You know, most of them didn't even pay a dime.
Yeah.
Most people I had with me didn't pay a dime.
Yeah.
Because I used people as whatever talent they had. And yes, like Scott Taylor, he put people in the seats. Scott Taylor, when he came down from Maine, drive down from Maine, single show, his dad, and I put him on top because he put people in the seats. My whole thing was about attendance.
Yes.
And it still is. When I go to shows, I'm saying, there should be more people here. So, I mean, they should do something. They should do this. They should do that. They should contact these people. You know, that was my main goal, is put people in the seats so you guys can wrestle in front of a bigger crowd. Yeah, we would use people that Scott Maverick. He's another good one. I mean, so people like guys that were local guys. There was a couple guys from Rhode Island that people came to see. Gene was one of them because of his flamboyance and his act.
Yeah, Gino definitely had the people down here. He had a following that back then. You know, even in the cable access here in Rhode Island, he had a good following. But yeah, you know, those were like rumors that, you know, again, the boys and certain people that sometimes get upset that they can start. And, you know, this is the first time that it's been touched on and publicly. And I'm glad that we're able to clear
If they didn't get a belt, Richie, they got mad because that person got a belt. They deserved it more.
Yeah.
If we took certain people on the road than others, and I try to take people on the road that were good performers. Because if I took some of those guys that were not good performers or small-bodied people, I would lose my telemarketers. My telemarketers want a bigger talent than those. Fuller, Rick Fuller, for example, took them on the road all the time. Scott Ashworth, Brickhouse Bigot, because they were big guys. You went on a road a lot, Richie. You were on the road a lot.
Yeah, I was on the road for the most part for all the shows.
I can't remember about Chris, but Chris was a big size, so Chris worked on the road a lot.
Yeah.
But some of the smaller guys did. I kept them for the PAL shows, the New Bedford shows. But, I mean, that makes me a bad person? No, because I was looking out for the whole company, not just for one person.
Yes, definitely.
You know, if I had a title couch, I would. If I had a title couch, some of those younger people would be on the road, but they weren't.
Yeah.
They weren't because I wanted great talent and big talent on the road. Colossus was on the road, Blade Runner, Cousin Seth, all those bigger guys were on the road a lot.
Yeah, Big Dog Wilson, all those guys.
Yeah, Big Dog Wilson. Exactly. You got it. That's how it is. You need to put your best on the road
Yeah.
because it keeps buying shows. I started with telemark one trial show. The guy name was Rick. He goes, Joe, we don't know much about you. I saw your tapes. Talked to a few people. Because I had to give him a list of places I've been on my own doing shows, and I gave those lists, like Case High School and think New Bedford High School, and UMass Dartmouth,
Yes.
and they checked that, and they called those people because the people called me. Said, Joe, what's this people calling me for? I said, well, I'm using you as a reference. And after that, he liked what I brought, and we got shows after shows after shows. That went on for about 5 years.
Yeah, I remember going over to Martha's Vineyard. You ran a show
Yes.
there. I don't
That
think that
wasn't
has
the
been
best
done.
shows. That wasn't the best show at the Martha's Vineyard because that's a far removed type of crowd for wrestling. It wasn't that all right.
Hmm.
But I had some great shows, and we had some shows, and it was based on the region. Because what the telemarketers do, they don't charge people for tickets. They're selling ads or raising money for police or fire department, and they would give the family just free tickets. You would take out a $25 ad or donation $50. They just give you free tickets.
Hmm.
Depending, it didn't matter the area you're in. In some of those areas, like wrestling, they would use their tickets. Some didn't, and they didn't use their tickets. Every time we were in Middleborough, that place was sold out all the time
Yeah.
because of Rick Fuller, Pat Garrett. They would. That's what it's about. Again, if you want to criticize me, basically, or anybody, is that I wasn't 100% using all the guys. But that changed because after we said, well, we had so many people. Jamie was there because he was a booker for a little while. Different people. We had so many guys. I said, who are we going to offend today? Who are we going to hurt that they know we have a show and we're not going to take them?
Hmm.
So that's why we started South Coast Pro Wrestling, and we did I guess it's SmackDown and what's the, I don't watch
Yeah,
wrestling
so
on
it's
TV, so.
Raw and SmackDown. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did that. We were doing that way before Vince was doing.
Hmm.
But we were nobodies. We weren't nobody. Nobody really knew us, so
Yeah.
we were nobodies. We were doing that. That idea came from talking to guys, and they said, "Well, we can do shows in two places sometimes it's the same night."
At the same night. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but that's again. Please ask more questions because I like questions.
Okay, so now that we brought on, shows and all that stuff, I kind of want to bury the hatchet with the people jumping in the ring and those incidents that you claimed that you used to get blamed for when I used to get into fights.
Oh,
at the
okay,
shows.
Joe. Maybe you can. Well, this is more with Steve.
Jump
So,
into the ring. I'm confused about that.
so normally what would happen? This is my story with Mr. Vega over here. Every time we would get in trouble with you, I would get blamed for it. I would have to stay home, and then he would go down to practice the next day, smooth everything over for himself, and then I would still be on the shelf. Do you remember any of those situations?
I don't recall because you did anything wrong. And who would go instead of you?
Mr. Don Vega.
Yeah, he knows me as Punisher.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Punisher
Okay.
would clear everything up with either yourself or Steve Ricard. Wouldn't tell me, and I would be sitting home when he would be going for the weekend shows.
You and probably a lot of other guys. Look, I'll be 100% honest with you. You can hate me if you want me or not. Maybe the ones we took were a little better than you, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that.
No.
He said
I'm
it,
just
not
saying
Here, for the
What?
longest I've had to
If I went down the next day and schmoozed you,
No,
but
I never smooshed, man. I was,
Yeah?
Joe knows, I was never a smoocher.
No, maybe. Hold on. Maybe Richie came onto the title couch.
oh,
Yeah, that's probably what.
put that down there,
about
Don
that?
Vega on the tighter couch.
His father,
All right,
his
I
father
can
was
picture it now.
that door.
Yeah. Well,
That's
no,
that's a bunch of crap. That's a bunch of crap. But Chris, I mean, I'm being honest with you. I can't remember that far back.
yeah,
Maybe
no,
because we just
it's
needed, maybe because we just needed 15 guys, not 20 guys. We did a lot of battle royal just to use more guys. We went to the Armory Forever, did 3 rings, side by side,
yeah,
3 rings. Nobody's ever done that
Hmm.
to
no,
use all the guys we have. It's we were always trying. I was anyway, and then the other people that follow my lead. I never really whatever book we had. One of them was Scott Taylor's friend, but Phil something.
Uh,
Phil. When Phil came
was
into
it Phil
booking,
Apollo?
Phil Apollo. When Phil
Yes.
came into booking, I found out, and I sort of noticed that Phil was using more guys, Scott's friends from Maine and that area there. He was leaving some of our local guys home. So I said, Phil, we need to incorporate more people than just the Ramseys, and there was more names. I can't remember all those
hmm
names up there, those guys.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. But Chris, if I had left you home sometimes, it wasn't.
See, you blame me after all the. I'm expecting an
all right.
apology,
I'm
Chris.
sure you know because I
No,
remember,
nothing was done
I remember
personally.
especially like
Yeah.
the Fisherman's Club one night that somebody jumped over it, and Steve used to always yell at me.
Well, you know.
Oh,
Who?
so now,
People?
okay, that was fine.
People?
So when Steve
People?
Ricard, we're going to get him
Or
on the
wrestlers?
podcast. I know you're covering your tracks.
Oh, so you're now you're blaming Steve since
Now I'm
Joe
going to blame
clearly yeah.
Steve. No, but being on the guy who's running the business now, I don't think people appreciate exactly what you said between choosing talent and booking shows.
Don't
Very.
don't you think that happens with Vince?
Oh yeah, no. But people they
Or any
underappreciate
company? How about
you.
companies that put the? There's been so many companies who started after. I educated an awful lot of people to the wrestling business. I know I did. I don't go out bragging about that. I don't want no awards or anything like that. A lot of people that I educated, they get awards, but they leave the truth out how they started.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But uh, it's not about me. But a lot of guys who do shows now, anybody can buy a ring, anybody can find a hall, anybody can do a show. That's the times now. Before you couldn't, because there weren't that many rings around.
Hmm.
There were not that many rings around. And if there was a lot of money. Now you can get them pretty cheap.
So now that's my next question, Joe. Now that you brought the rings, there's always a mention. Whoever worked for you, it's always in the talk about Big Blue. Where do you
Oh,
find Big
Big
Blue? Where
Blue,
where
Big
you got
Blue.
Big Blue from?
Oh my God, I want to say it was someplace in Chicago. I went out there with a van and a couple guys. Actually, we had to take a trailer because it was so big, and brought it back. I forgot who the hell I bought it for, but I only paid like $1,000 for it. It was sitting in somebody's barn.
Wow.
I forget who it was. It was a former wrestler. God, I wish I could remember that. But I remember the trip. It was a freaking long trip.
Yeah, we always bring
And
up Big Blue in every story, and even the guys that I help train now, they work in 16-foot rings or 18-footers, and I'm like, yeah, you knew you was in ring shape if you could work a 20-minute match in Big Blue. Uh,
yeah, that ring was big.
yeah, it was a big boy there. Chris, you got
But
anything?
by the time I left, we had 4 rings. I mean, 4 rings and tons of lights and sound stuff and curtains and so because I kept on investing to make it look better and better and better.
Hmm.
You know, I there weren't that many shows. If you went to a Killer Kowalski show way back then, you came through a door in the there was no curtains, no lights. You just walked through a door from the locker room.
Hmm.
That's all you would do. I invested in railings and so I educated an awful lot of people. That I gotta say.
Yep,
I
definitely.
gotta say that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's a branch of Yankee Pro Wrestling in every company that's in New England. I talked
Mhm.
earlier to Chris about that as far as talent that is training other people or working certain places. They all came
Yep.
through those doors.
I
Definitely.
wanted Yeah, I wanted to do an old timer reunion show. A couple times I talked to Stevie, the referee, because I saw him. I still, before I pass, I want to do something. If just we bring as many people that from the past back to do an oldie show. I mean, I would like to do that.
That'd be great. That would be great to catch up with a lot of people.
I think of doing it back again, starting it back up again. I didn't forget anything as far as how to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not an instructor. I used to wrestle a couple of times. I think it was a shits, but it was just in shows at the PAL to increase the audience for the next show.
Yeah.
We would do stupid things as I would team up with Alan. I had Alan in the office, or Scott Pemberton against Derek and somebody else.
Yeah, Bobby Cruz. I think at one point.
I remember Gino once. Yeah, Bobby and Gino. That was just for the audience, just to increase next month's audience.
Yeah.
At one time, we were doing 2 shows at PAL a month: a South Coast show and a Yankee show.
Yes.
And that's all stuff just out of my head, and with some of the guys helping with the ideas, because I wasn't the idea guy. I mean, somebody used to ask me, who's going over tonight? I said, how the hell do I care? You guys pick amongst yourselves. The only thing out of control is who's the champions, because I do it by attendance. Sometimes I used to give guys tickets and say, go sell these tickets, keep half the money. That's how I knew how many people were bringing people in.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Yeah, definitely got to get the people in the door.
One of my stupid sayings, what is wrestling without people to watch?
Definitely
Really?
wrestling for the people. You know, wrestling is for the people and for the fans that come and watch the shows.
Exactly. All about the people. You got to work the people. Those heels got to work the people to make the baby, the other guy, look better. But again, yes, please. I love questions.
Yeah, we got a question. Actually, Jamie Candido was on here. He asked that you finally revealed that Ricard sabotaged his booking back in the day. I don't know how that came about, but Jamie also.
But hold on. Jamie claims that Ricard sabotaged his booking.
Yep.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know that because again, towards the end, Steve was involved a lot. Sometimes I would even stay home unless Steve run the show. That's how much faith I had in him. And I still do. I talk to Steve all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I really do. But most of his shows on Saturdays, and I have auctions, and my priority is auctions now. So that's what I do. But I mean, if he asks that question, I will. I'm going to ask Steve that. Next time I talk to Steve, I'm going to ask Steve that question.
Yes.
Did you ever sabotage when
Yeah,
Jamie was booked? Did you ever sabotage his things?
Yeah, he said circa 2003 on that one. Then we have
I don't even know when I left. I don't even know when I left. I really don't. Steve will know. Steve has a good head.
Yeah, Alan wants to know if you can still do the jelly roll. Alan Richard.
I don't think I can, because since then I got a pacemaker now, and I'm supposed to be doing less. I'm still fat though, but I'm sure I can attempt it. Who's that? Alan Richard?
Yeah, Alan did.
Yeah.
Another question for you, Joe. Someone wants to know, before you sold to Ricard, were there any other interested buyers?
None. I didn't ask nobody. None. Also, I didn't need to, because I knew Steve was the person to do it.
Okay.
You know, I'll give you a Steve story. During the Winter City Festival, because I ran the festival, we had multiple shows there, and we had 2 shows, two on the road shows. One at it was in Maine at a fair. I forget which name the fair, but there was a fair in Maine anyway. On one day, and then there was another fair on the following day. So Steve took the truck and a couple guys for the ring and went to do the 2 shows. You know, on the way there, He must have dozed off, hit a brick wall, flipped the truck over, but had enough common sense and enough, like, whatever you want to call it, to go and rent a truck. Him and Sweet, the other guy was in a truck with him, load the truck from the one that was wrecked, go and made the show still went to the show, and did the second show the next day. That's good. That's real. That shows a lot of promise.
Yeah, definitely.
And we booked that, and the following year we had those 2 locations again, because I instilled in him that we need to be professional. You can't start late. If it says 7 o'clock, you start at 7. You don't start at 7:30 or at 7:15. People get upset with that.
Yeah,
but I had a lot of great times. I really did. So please ask more questions.
So one more question, Joe, and this one's
Just one?
From Joseph Bruin. He wants to know if you keep contact, and I think you answered that already with what we said. If you keep contact with any other wrestlers from back in those days.
I see Scott Ashworth. I see Vega. Who else? I don't see too many. Cousin Seth, I used to see. He used to come to my auctions. Colossus just did some plumbing work for me at the house. My sink was clogged. And if I go somewhere, if I see somebody, we talk, shake hands. How you doing? But I do see some.
Okay, so he does see some.
I'd love to see more. They can call me. I don't go on Facebook though, but they can I'll give you my number. They can call me. I don't care.
All right. You need to get Jamie. Jamie also said you should come to the show tomorrow night in Taunton and bring chicken with you.
Tomorrow what? Tomorrow's Friday?
Yep.
I can't.
You definitely, if you can't make it tomorrow, we
I
definitely need
can't.
to keep in touch and have you come
Mention
down
what?
to one of the shows.
Hold on. Somebody's yelling at me. What are you saying, Rob? You were talking about wrestlers from back in the day. You didn't say anything about the Highlight Kid. Who's he? David? Oh, yeah. I can't. Tomorrow's my. What time's the show?
7 and we're
7:47.
Where?
7 for yep, exactly. You heard it right. This is Chris Blackheart's we're start times.
But I gotta go set up. I gotta my Christmas auctions Saturday and Sunday. I'm going there tomorrow to pre-set up for Saturday, but that's not gonna take all night.
Yeah, 8 o'clock should
Yeah.
be fine. You know, we would love to have you down. A lot of the,
Ask
like
Joe to bring the Entenmann's.
Jamie still works for us, and he's been asking. He was actually excited.
Taunton, where? Where's it in Taunton?
It's at the BFW Hall in Taunton, 82 Ingle Street.
I don't know if I ran that one or not. I don't know.
I'll send Alan the information.
Okay. That's fine. Send out the information.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and there's one person I really forgot, and I really should throw this in, is the Highlight Kid.
Yeah.
David, we were right across from his house. We had two places. One, the first one, it was right across from his house, so he was always in there with some of his neighborhood kids, jumping in the ring and all that stuff. While the guys were practice, there was always people there when he was there. And then we had a place across the street. It was a big hall. It was an old mill that was just on the first floor that I built. We had two rings in there, one way in the back for practice and one in the front. And him and his boys were always there, messing around. He did one great thing at the PAL. I forget who he was. I don't know if he was wrestling against Derek, but he went up to the balcony and jumped off that balcony right to the center of the ring. Everybody popped. Everybody went nuts.
Yeah. And
I said, "Oh my God, that's the best thing I ever seen." And people just were nuts for that. But he's him and Jamie. I haven't seen Jamie in so long, but Jamie did the book, and I had no problem with that.
Yeah.
Kevin Castro did the booking for a little while. I don't know who else. If you guys know, you can remind me.
Yeah, it was like
there
when I
there
came
was a few
in.
other guys.
When I came in, it was like Tony the Maniac at one point.
Oh yeah, him. He passed away too, poor guy.
Joe Pavo.
Joe Pable was never the booker. He would help Joe.
Yeah.
He would help Joe, but he wasn't the official booker.
Dave Souza, Bobby Cruz.
Oh, Souza, yeah, Bobby Cruz, yeah, Souza.
Yep, those were some of the guys that uh, during my time were booking, and then obviously Steve when he came in. Now,
Yeah.
when you split the rosters, Joe,
Mhm.
Yankee Pro was always like the A team, and
Yep.
South Coast was meant to be like the B team. But towards the middle of that run with both companies, I personally thought that South Coast ended up being like the A team because we were doing all the road shows.
That's because of the talent. You know what I'm saying? It's because of the talent made that. We tried to split evenly. The talent that wrestled in those, they're the ones who brought it to the top or brought it down. It was the guys. It wasn't me anyway. My goal for doing that was to get the maximum guys to work. To be what's the sense of having a huge roster, but not no, I'm sorry, but 60% of them stay home all the time. That
Yeah.
makes no sense.
Yeah.
So that was the best thing I do. Sometimes I think maybe we should do this again. I'm not that old.
Hmm.
Maybe I can do this again. So
Hey, it's never too late, man.
yeah,
It's never
I
too late.
know. I still know the contacts.
That's it.
I know Steve does less. Steve does less because Steve's a workaholic. He's always on the road for his other business, but he's a great person. I know they had some. They got some. I think they got some of the older guys there, like the
Hmm.
Teddy and I don't even know some of their names. I feel so bad about that.
Yeah, I think Teddy
Um,
Teddy Goods is doing great. He's doing his own thing now, and Ryan
oh, he is
Drew,
okay.
Ryan Drew
Drew's
as
out
well.
of Brockton. Out of
Yeah,
Brockton.
yeah, he's doing his own thing, and he's doing good
Yeah.
with his thing that he's doing right now too. Chris, any questions? We're getting
Yeah, no,
around that
we're,
time.
we're getting the wrap up stage. But no, Joe,
Is it
you're
really?
invited
Oh shit.
anytime that you want to come down.
Yeah, we need to do part two of this,
Yeah,
kid. So
bring chicken.
Well,
Bring
again,
Alan
if
too.
you ever want me to come on, I'll gladly come on. But I just want to leave with this because I was on hold and I can hear you guys talk in the back.
yeah.
Um, false accusations are not fun, Richard.
They're not.
They're not fun. When anybody in the world can make an accusation, doesn't mean it's true or not.
Hmm.
And so just good luck with whatever's going on with that.
Yep, I'm gonna clear the air on that, and it's just
Yeah.
it's just the world brings things full circle. We would never
Mm-hmm.
have thought that we would end up talking about an issue I have myself going on. But I'll
Yeah.
clear the air after we let you go. But before we do
Okay.
that, we like to play this little game called the name game, where we mention a name and you just give us a brief description of what comes to mind when we talk about that person, when we mention that name. Chris,
I'm probably gonna lose.
you want to go first?
Gerard.
Gerard. I can't say some things about Gerard, but he was one of in Fall River. He was one of our liveliest, and he was at every show. We got there at 3 o'clock. He was sitting at the front door for the show to start,
Wow.
and he stunk. What else?
Big Daddy Kahuna.
Big Daddy Kahuna. Put on a great show. Bounced around the ring like he weighed 150 pounds.
Yes.
But that's about it. And he was. I actually considered him my friend because I knew him for a long time. He was very nice.
I remember when you used to have those cage matches and you team him and Derek and they go around the
Yep.
ring a couple times and people would be in awe just to see if they could fit
Yep.
through the small door of the cage. That was freaking
Yep.
amazing. Chris?
Dave Souza.
David Souza? You mean
Sabana.
um,
Yeah.
Savannah Souza? Because I know
Yeah.
another Dave Souza.
Yeah. No.
Um, he came in. He came in. Somebody asked me to bring him in, and he. I don't like saying anything bad about the dead, but he had a way about himself that alienated certain people.
Mm-hmm. Blade Runner, Reverend Redemption.
Again, from the beginning, I started all this stuff. He was there. Agile, nice soul, do anything for you. And the wrestling business will miss him.
Hmm A name that he helped me out a lot when I was training, starting out, and we barely mentioned him. Tex McCoy.
Tex McCoy. Tex, I think he's still in Fall River. Tex McCoy will probably be in. Like Chris asked a question before, how come I got left off cards? He got left off a lot of cards also, just because of Tex, because of him sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of his style and in some towns that gimmick he had wouldn't work.
hmm Chris.
But he's a nice person.
Sandy Starr.
Sandy Starr was a hard worker. She had some medical issues, but she fought through them. And she added something to the shows all the time.
Okay. I'd like to close off with Steven Ricard.
Steve Ricard, I told you enough about Steve Ricard. Steve Ricard to me is a great person. He did a great job for me and the wrestling to move it on. After he bought it, whatever he did, that was his choice. But I would like a lot of Steve Ricards in a business because he follows through.
hmm Well, Joe, I appreciate you coming on, clearing the air. And, before I let you go, a couple months back, I was actually inducted into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And I know, I mentioned a lot of people and I thanked a lot of individuals during my speech. But, now that I have you on, I would personally like to say thank you for giving me the opportunity you did, 27 years ago when I walked into your building as a 15-year-old kid. You gave me the platform for me to learn the great business of pro wrestling. I've wrestled so many stars that I used to watch growing up in wrestling in your canvas. So I just would like to thank you for that. I always appreciate you and what Yankee Pro Wrestling did for me back in the 90s and the 2000s.
Tell them the same
No,
for me.
you're more than welcome. Well, you deserved it, so.
Thank you very much. Everybody here is thankful. Danny, Chris, same goes for those guys. We'll hope. I'm going to send Alan the information on that shows. I'll send Alan my number so that we can stay in touch. And hopefully we'll get you down, you and Chicken at a show. And even Alan come down and we'll catch up on
All
old
right.
times. It was great
I have no
having you
issue with
on,
that.
Joe.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you guys giving me the time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Okay. Take care, Chris.
All right. Thank you, Joe.
All right, see you. See you, Dan.
See you, Joe.
Take care.
Bye. Well, there you have it, man.
All right. Uncovered some stories. Part 1. We do a part 2 coming up. But let's get into the events coming up tomorrow night. 82 Ingle Street. Seasons Beatings. 747. The matches that are signed by Santa himself that you can see at SP Wrestling on all of our social media. Let's start off with...
So Santa Claus, okay, let me just clear
What?
the air here. This one's a long one, and we're going to have Joe back on here because we need
Well,
a part
no,
two on
it's
that.
funny. The more talking to him, I'm
Yeah,
like,
we
I
need
want
a
to
part
ask
two on
this
that
and
one.
this and this.
If you're a promoter and you didn't get educated on some of the stuff
I did.
he said here, then you're missing out. But yeah, now this is the last chance that people could go online now, late night, buy
Yep.
some tickets for Seasons Beatings
Yes.
4 tomorrow night at the Taunton BFW Hall, 82 Ingle Street, 7:47 p.m. bell time. And if they buy that ticket online, they're gonna get to meet Santa Claus. I heard Santa Claus is gonna be in the building.
I'm not sure about that.
Come on, it's the holiday season, man. You gotta give people something,
December 1st. It's not
Doesn't
the.
matter.
It's not
See,
the
he's the
20.
Grinch.
It's not the
Buy your
25th.
tickets.
Oh,
We'll
you-
make sure
all right,
that Santa Claus is in the
I got to
building.
put a reminder to pick them up.
Yes. Yeah, put it on.
All right, but with that being
Not
said,
doing
some of the
anything.
main matches we're having, we having the masshole Mike McCarthy versus the SPW champion
Brother Moon Red.
Brother Moon Revin. Ironically, this is the masshole's 20th year in pro wrestling.
Yeah, congrats to him.
So
That's
congrats to coming back. We also have, I hate this, it's called the Young Lions, but we do. We have the consistent one, AZ versus Jay Evans.
yeah, the beautiful Jay
The
Evans.
was that what they're going by?
Yeah,
A
that's
lot of people like Mr. Evans. Different style. He's getting over with the fans.
yep, definitely. And Joe mentioned that it's all about putting asses in
In the
seats.
seats.
And that's gonna be an interesting contest there. Someone else that's a young lion that has an undefeated record is the notorious
Hmm.
Rambo. He is gonna be on hand tomorrow night. What will happen? Who
I don't know.
knows? You
He's
have
been
to be there.
undefeated. He was destroying people left and right.
You'll have to be there
So
tomorrow
with the
night.
open challenge, you just never know who comes through that
Who's gonna
door.
show up? It could be anybody. Then a match that
The championship committee
yeah,
put together
sure,
myself, Sergeant Muldoon,
yeah.
John Senior, fantastic. 3-on-2, yes, it's official. Puerto Rican's Most Wanted, yourself and your tag team partner, Alex Raiden, versus Special Education, Christopher Spratt, Danny Cabral, and D-Rex for the Showcase Wrestling Tag Team Championship.
You're peppy when you
No,
speak
no, you
about
know,
this. You're
because
like
the three
you're
of
like
us worked to get, and been trying to redeem myself over the past couple of months, and I think this is a really good effort that we all came together.
it's the season of giving. It's the season of giving. And tomorrow night, I got a surprise for those guys.
All right, no, that's
I got
fine.
a
And
bag
wait,
full of gifts.
wait, do we
Hold
have
on
a
a second.
we have a bonus? We
Yeah,
have a
we got a
bonus.
bonus
All right, put a
match.
bonus up.
But before we move on to the bonus match, just remember 3-on-2.
3-on-2,
So
three,
that's
two.
we haven't really got into specifics, but tomorrow night, just be there. It's gonna be a great
Yeah.
time, and those guys are gonna be in the end of a great surprise. Also, just added on the card, the YouTube world title will be on the line as the deranged Dr. Roger Williams will defend the title
That's
against
not
another
understand.
up and comer in Showcase Pro Wrestling, the Damien.
The day
What do you guys say about that guy?
opportunity. He's such a
He
nice
likes
guy.
to fly high.
He is such a nice guy. He really is.
He
So
actually likes to take bumps and get high. He
yes,
gets high on wrestling. Let's be it.
yes,
Let's
he is
be
an addict, and his addiction is pro wrestling.
yes.
So again, that all kicks off tomorrow night at 7:47 bell time. You can get your tickets online and at the door.
Get your tickets online tonight if you want to see Santa. Trust me. Why are you giving me that look?
Oh, you
Then the
got
following week, December 9th, we're back at the Showcase Pro Wrestling Training Center and Arena, 126 Main Street
yep,
in Woonsocket. That's going to be a Saturday at 7:07 p.m. bell time.
7:07, and
But before that,
yeah, you kind of forgot December
no,
7th.
I didn't. I didn't forget. I didn't forget December 7th.
I mean December 2nd. The first time in over a decade, we will be part of the Main Street Stroll in Woonsocket
Wow, this is news for me.
from
This is
2
breaking
to
news.
7. That and anyone is an open house. If you want to come down, we're going to have to run some matches. We're going to be up and down. They're promoting this like a Hallmark Christmas on Main Street Woonsocket. We've been running events. Usually it's been at our Moose Lodge or the Taunton VFW. This time it's slightly reversed. For over a decade, first time. At our Moose Lodge or the Taunton VFW. This time it's slightly reversed. For over a decade, first time.
So, with that being said, I am Don Vega. This is Chris Blackheart. It's been the Showcase Pod. We'll catch you right back here next week, Thursday, live on the Showcase Pod.